我们俩上了救救啊！大家要领，大家要领。
这个走了几年，孩子他说起上下。
Cover today in China Undercover. You find our information helpful. Please subscribe and turn on the notification. It will help us get more motivation to produce more quality videos. Now back to the news. China's unending tragedy. 1 million lives abducted. China has the most cameras in the world, with some reports estimating over 200 million cameras. According to a survey by a British technology research website, on average, there is one camera for every 2 Chinese citizens. If the police use these surveillance devices effectively, it should be easier to locate missing people. However, in China, which has a special system and is often referred to as a red country, these surveillance devices don't seem to help find missing individuals. On February 25, 2021, China's Ministry of Civil Affairs and the Institute of Social Assistance jointly released a report called the White Paper on China's Missing Population 2020. It revealed that in 2020, around 2,739 people went missing every day, totaling 1 million missing people in a year. This means that every minute, 2 people disappeared in this vast country. Interestingly, the report seemed to be praising the Chinese government because the number of missing persons in 2020 was lower than in previous years. For instance, the report stated that there were 3.94 million missing persons in 2016 and 2.6 million in 2017. This is a video captured by a surveillance camera in a Chinese city. In the video, a man is seen carrying a girl dressed in red on the street, and his accomplice is driving a van to meet him. We're uncertain if the girl can be rescued. The high number of missing persons in China is attributed to various factors like abductions, entrapment, and other criminal activities. Sadly, most victims are women and children. According to an American report titled the 2019 Trafficking in Persons Report, China was ranked as the 3rd least effective country in combating human trafficking, just above Libya, Somalia, and Yemen, where human trafficking is rampant. In February 2022, a video circulated on social media in China showing a mother of 8 children being kept in chains for an extended period in a rural village. This shocking video garnered attention nationwide. The evidence strongly suggests that the woman was trafficked when she was only 12 years old and was forced into becoming a reproductive tool. These incidents are just the tip of the iceberg. In the same area where the mother of 8 children was held captive, another video shows a girl rushing to firefighters during a fire drill, desperately seeking help. According to data from the Chinese Ministry of Public Security, which was intended to showcase its achievements, we can estimate the extent of human trafficking in China. The official Chinese media, Legal Daily, reported on February 16, 2015, that more than 30,000 women were rescued from trafficking in 2014. However, it is challenging to determine how many women were not rescued and how many more were trafficked in other years. The following footage shows women suspected to be victims of trafficking in the hands of traffickers. The trafficker in the video provides water and mentions that the woman is employed by his family, implying that she is being exploited. Chinese media reports indicate that most abducted women are sold to impoverished rural areas, where there is a significant gender imbalance, often attributed to China's one-child policy that was in place for over 30 years. Other contributing factors include a preference for sons over daughters in rural China, selective abortion, and China's unequal household registration policy, which disadvantages rural populations. The communist government's dualistic system of urban and rural household registration has marginalized rural populations, making men in rural China less competitive in the marriage market due to limited financial resources. This has led to alternative means of obtaining brides, including abduction and trafficking, resulting in the suffering of countless fathers and mothers. We want to share the heartbreaking stories of parents searching for their missing daughters, highlighting the lifelong nightmare faced by these families. While abducting women is illegal in China, it is suggested that it has been tolerated by authorities to some extent, possibly to maintain stability in rural areas. This has made it exceedingly difficult for victims to escape, as they are often surrounded not only by their captors, but also by the entire village and urban bureaucracy. Escape attempts by these women often led to dire consequences, including physical and mental abuse, disability, and long-term suffering. One of the Chinese government's working documents, titled Notice of Several Opinions on the Work of Rescuing Trafficked Women and Children, goes to the extent of suggesting that young girls who were trafficked and have now reached the legal age of marriage and are willing to continue living with their captors should complete the marriage registration and household transfer procedures in accordance with the law. This policy is concerning and raises ethical questions about the treatment of trafficking victims. Some women who were abducted as children and later reunited with their families find it challenging to reintegrate into society. The text also describes a poignant scene from December 2021 when a father found his daughter, who had been missing for 20 years, and emotionally cried in a lecture video by a professor from China University of Political Science and Law in 2020. It is stated that the maximum sentence for illegally purchasing a parrot is 5 years, while the maximum sentence for illegally buying 1 or 12 women is only 3 years. This is equivalent to the maximum sentence for illegally buying 20 bald toads. This stark contrast in penalties implies that the value of a Chinese woman is considered lower than that of a parrot, and it is only comparable to that of a bald toad. The text suggests that such lenient penalties contribute to the proliferation of human trafficking in China and the lack of recovery of abducted daughters. Additionally, the UNESCO Institute Against Human Trafficking conducted an analysis of human trafficking in China, studying 800 cases between 2006 and 2007. The analysis found that 19 of the trafficked women were forced into prostitution, and 42 had unknown whereabouts, highlighting the challenges in tracking and recovering victims. This video also points out that these crimes, including forced marriage and human trafficking, often occur not in remote rural areas, but in large cities. It emphasizes that it is not only girls but also boys who face the danger of being trafficked and exploited, underscoring the breadth of the issue. In the following video, an elderly woman purchased a dress and turned around to find that her 6-year-old grandson had disappeared. Chinese media reports that approximately 200,000 children go missing each year in mainland China, with an average of about 550 children disappearing every day. Shockingly, nearly 80% of these missing children are abducted and sold, and there is only a 1% chance of recovery for them. These children are typically abducted at an age when they do not have clear memories of their birth families, frustrated by the police's reluctance to help find their missing children. Parents have taken matters into their own hands. Some parents have formed organizations like Child Finders. This Beijing-based non-governmental organization claims to have 700 current members, most of whom are low-income migrant workers. The text explains that the fate of abducted children depends on their age. For children under the age of 5, the most common outcome is adoption by families lacking a boy. Children between the ages of 5 and 8 are often forced into various forms of exploitation such as slave labor, prostitution, or reproductive exploitation. Tragically, some criminal gangs even mime these children and force them into begging on the streets. Older children who go missing face heightened fears as they are likely to endure even worse circumstances. The text also mentions a mother named Shruting from Naijiang City who is desperately seeking her missing son. She describes his appearance and pleads for help from anyone who may have information about his whereabouts. These heart-wrenching pleas highlight the anguish and despair experienced by families of missing children. In November 2013, a Chinese-funded, Hong Kong-based publication called Phoenix Weekly published an extensive report on the dark side of human organ trafficking in China. The report acknowledged that organ transplant tourism to China had thrived over the past decade, with unusually efficient transplant procedures frequently reported in the news. International medical experts have scrutinized the situation and concluded that there must be a significant underground organ bank in China, including live organ harvesting banks, raising serious ethical concerns about organ trafficking. The article suggests that individuals in China who are inmates of re-education through labor camps, social outcasts, and trafficked women and children often lack legal protection and may be vulnerable targets of organ theft. This raises serious concerns about the exploitation of these vulnerable populations for organ harvesting, where their organs may be removed without their consent or proper legal safeguards. Organ trafficking and theft are grave ethical and human rights issues, and the lack of legal protection for these individuals further compounds the problem. Zhejiang Affiliated Hospital, which is part of Xi'an Medical College, was accused of being involved in organ theft on February 28, 2012, where it's claimed that people's organs were taken without their consent. Some experts think that the high number of children being trafficked in China could be because of the one-child policy. This policy led to a demand for boys by families who wanted them. Another factor contributing to child trafficking is China's household registration system called the Hukou system, which began in the 1950s. This system usually ties a person's official status to where they were born. So migrant workers and their children often can't register where they work and live, making it difficult for them to access benefits like buying a home, healthcare, or education. Even though the Communist Party announced changes to the Hukou system in July 2014, eliminating the difference between rural and urban registration, these changes don't apply to big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. This means that migrant workers who move to these cities still face restrictions due to the registration system. Children from rural areas whose parents work in cities are particularly vulnerable to traffickers. Their families may not have the resources or time to watch over them closely, making it easier for criminals to abduct these children. Some of these abducted children struggle to remember their families and hope to reunite with them one day. They often seek help from the public to raise awareness and assist in their search. I'm seeking everyone's help. I'm a child who was abducted. I was born around 1990, and I was kidnapped in Handan City, Hebei Province, during the winter of 1996, near the end of November on the Chinese lunar calendar. I remember that I was taken away while I was with my parents at their workplace. My parents worked and took care of my sister and me. We lived in a room on the second floor, and we had a new neighbor next door who turned out to be a human trafficker. That's when I was abducted. I recall my father's name was Yang Xinming and my name was Yang Yuba. My sister's name, I can't remember if it was her full name, but I called her Sani. I also called my grandmother and mother in a certain way. I remember my hometown was in a mountainous area and it was very close to the train tracks. From the peak, I could see a market nearby. I'm hoping that you can help me spread this message so that my family can see it and provide assistance. Thank you. As mentioned earlier, China has strict surveillance and law enforcement has partnered with tech companies to make people register their cell phone numbers under their real names. In some places, they even require people to provide photos. This extensive surveillance system mandates that Chinese citizens use their real names for various activities and transactions. The Chinese government has faced criticism and mounting pressure from the public regarding the issue of human trafficking. In March, they made a public statement acknowledging the importance of protecting the legitimate rights and interests of the people. They expressed sadness and anger over serious violations of women's rights and pledged to hold those responsible accountable. They also promised severe punishment for those involved in trafficking in women and children. However, in reality, some actions seem contradictory. For example, on February 21, 2022, a retired associate professor of law proposed establishing 2022 as the year of anti-trafficking to the Chinese government. The professor expressed concerns that if human traffickers and buyers of trafficked individuals were not dealt with sternly, more people would become victims. This proposal was posted on a public page for only 20 minutes before being blocked, and the author was summoned by the police for sharing a message about mothers of 8 children in his social circle. Chinese media have said that human trafficking in China has become a big problem in the last 20-30 years. We don't have exact numbers, but a U.S. report from 2019 ranks China as one of the worst countries at stopping human trafficking, just above Libya, Somalia, and Yemen, where it's very bad. According to Chinese news, around 200,000 children go missing in China every year, which is about 550 children every day. Sadly, only about 0.1% of these missing children are found, which means only around 200 out of 200,000 children come back to their families. But the Chinese government denies these numbers. In China, some people have a website called Baby Go Home to find missing children. As of July 26, 2021, there were 120,000 children still missing on this site, but they've found 5,685 children. More than 370,000 people help on this website. 2018, Chinese media reported that a person named Cheng Liang was arrested for taking about 17 children each year. In an interview, she said she sold children for money even though she knew it was against the law. The child trafficking problem in China has grown significantly since the 1980s. According to reports in 2015, the Ministry of Civil Affairs estimated that there were approximately 1 million to 1.5 million street begging children in China. The sale of children has created a hidden network of unscrupulous individuals operating in rural areas across China, including central provinces and southern coastal regions. Several factors contribute to the severity of child trafficking in China. Firstly, there is a demand for children, particularly boys, in Chinese families for various reasons. When the female head of a family cannot have more children, they may resort to buying boys from traffickers. Secondly, there is a market for human organs in China, and some abducted children have reportedly had their organs removed after being abandoned by traffickers. Thirdly, there is a significant market for child beggars, especially in large cities like Beijing. These children are often trafficked, physically disabled, and then placed on the streets to elicit sympathy from passersby, becoming tools for traffickers to make money. Additionally, some older children may be sold to illegal brick mills where they work long hours in perilous conditions. In 2007, there was a shocking case of illegal brick mills in Shanxi province where workers, including children, were subjected to extreme physical labor, violence, and abuse. This incident drew significant attention and even shocked China's top leaders at the time. President Hu Jintao and Premier Wen Jiabao was in China. There is a unique phenomenon known as left behind children. Many families with missing children fall into this category. When children go missing, they often cannot be found due to delayed search efforts. Left behind children come from rural families where one or both parents work in cities or towns and cannot afford the high cost of urban living. Consequently, they are unable to keep their children with them and leave them behind in their hometowns, often in the care of relatives such as grandparents in rural areas. These children end up living apart from their parents for extended periods. The issue of left-behind children is predominantly discussed in the context of China, and it has emerged as a severe social phenomenon in recent years. According to statistics from the Ministry of Civil Affairs as of August 2018, there were 6.97 million left-behind children in rural areas in China. When it comes to handling human traffickers in China, the country has specific legal provisions. Article 240 of the Chinese criminal law deals with child abduction and trafficking. According to this article, individuals who abduct and sell a child shall be sentenced to imprisonment for a fixed term of no less than 5 years and not more than 10 years. They may also be fined. If the circumstances are particularly serious, the offender shall be sentenced to death and their property shall be confiscated. Article 241 of the criminal law addresses those who buy abducted and trafficked women and children. Such individuals shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment, detention, or probation for not more than 3 years. However, despite these legal provisions, the punishments for human traffickers often do not proportionally match the substantial profits they can make from these crimes. This discrepancy has led to human traffickers continuing their criminal activities for profit. Data from the Chinese Ministry of Public Security reveals that from 2009 to 2013, public security authorities dismantled more than 11,000 child trafficking criminal gangs and rescued over 54,000 trafficked children on average. This equates to around 14,000 children rescued each year during that period. However, given the estimated annual number of 200,000 trafficked children in China, the percentage of rescues by the Chinese Ministry of Public Security remains relatively low. In practice, rescuing abducted children can be time-consuming and physically demanding for Chinese law enforcement, with little financial incentive. In contrast, in some cases like gambling and prostitution investigations, those arrested are often released after paying a fine, which can lead to corruption within the law enforcement system. To address this issue, the Chinese Communist Party's Central Committee's Political and Legal Committee issued a policy in 2009 aimed at combating gangsters and criminals, with a focus on preventing their infiltration into the party and political sphere, which could threaten the CCP's ruling position. Many parents of missing children in China believe that they must take matters into their own hands through social media because they perceive that the police are not doing enough to help. Some parents have formed volunteer organizations like Child Finders, which claims to have around 700 parent members, mostly low-income migrant workers from regions like Xi'an and Guangdong. These parents invest significant energy and resources into searching for their missing children, with some dedicating their entire lives to the quest. Tragically, some have suffered mental breakdowns due to the immense stress and sorrow of losing their children, while others have passed away before reuniting with their missing offspring, leaving behind a lifetime of regret. Public opinion in China strongly condemns child trafficking and related crimes, as they affect tens of thousands of families. However, the lack of systematic support from government agencies means that countless parents who have lost their children face their misfortunes alone. Many passers-by can only offer sympathy when encountering disabled children begging on the streets, as this has become a disheartening profession for some. In summary, addressing child trafficking and related issues remains a complex and challenging problem in China, with legal provisions in place but often insufficiently enforced, and a need for greater systemic support to protect the nation's children and uphold their safety.
And that is today's episode. If you found this video informative, please subscribe and ring a bell to get notification. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.